What's up, everybody? It's your boy Sean Davids, and you are watching or listening to Becoming Podcast, a podcast that not only encourage but also challenge us men to become a better him. So, welcome to this week's episode. I was thinking about what do we talk about this week on the Becoming Podcast, and it just came to mind that because we are in the month of love, I would love to speak about love and no other way or better way to discuss anything than to speak about my own life stories. So this week we are going to speak about 5 things that I've learned being a married man, and also 5 things that I think every guy should know while in a relationship or before marriage. So yeah, let's get into it. I think the first thing that I've learned or discovered about myself is that I never knew that I was going to be so overprotective. Like I would be with my gym friends, some friends, buddies. I would be in the ghettos, would be anyway. I'll be completely chill. I'll be at ease. Driving alone, driving the long road alone, I would be at ease. But as soon as my wife is present, I become like this high security guard that's always on alert about my surroundings. And that's when I don't know where it comes from, but that was instantaneously it happened where when I was married, when my wife is present, whenever she's present, whether we are out on the in the malls, whether we are out at events, whether we are driving, I've realized that I become super protective where she is. Like I'm starting to think of like scenarios of what can happen or how I need to protect her. But that's one of the things, or the first thing that I've discovered being married. Yeah, I don't know. That's very weird. I don't know if I'm the only guy that I discovered, but if you are them, please share like how or was there any scenarios that you have maybe discovered where you see that you become automatically overprotective. The thing that I've also learned, which I think is super important for other relationship or other relationship can also learn from this particular thing. But the thing that I've learned, because I've learned it the hard way, was that in a relationship, especially marriage, I've learned that it's not you versus your wife or your wife versus you. It's not the two of you versus each other, but actually you as a unit versus the issue. I think the Bible says that for a man and a wife, they will, when they get married, they become one. And so it's not anything with it is low self-esteem, with it is lust, with it is financial, with it whatever. If the issue is that particular thing, it's you as a couple fighting that thing and not you fighting each other. It's not me fighting my wife's stubbornness or my wife fighting my stubbornness, but it's actually us addressing our stubbornness issue or our low self-esteem issue. So that's one of the things that I have really learned. And when you change your perspective as to like you guys as a unit fighting that thing, it becomes more easier to overcome that particular thing. And it will be with it is, say you guys fighting the low self-esteem issue of a male or a woman in the sense like you guys are addressing it, so you helping your wife addressing the issue or your wife helping you to addressing this issue. It's not you attacking her on this. And so yeah, that is something that I've had to learn over the past 3 years. It's actually you guys as a unit fighting the particular issue. Yeah, and so that is one of the things. This one thing I think I got to, you don't get to master things in marriages, but one thing that I've got very aware of, because in my case, I am my wife's first boyfriend and husband, and then that's it. But my wife is not my first girlfriend. So I had girlfriends before this, and so they come habits and things worth this. And sometimes you think you want to take it over to where you are right now. But the second thing that I've learned, which is I think it's very important for a male to notice this is that whether you are doing the right thing or saying the right words, but if you are saying it in the wrong frequency, you miss it, because there's a certain frequency that every woman has that is just her. So with me, for example, coming from a relationships and things like that, I thought that if I'm going to be here, I would be like, I want to raise my voice and I want to get my point across, or I want to be assertive about certain things. I thought my wife would submit. However, my wife is here. And when I've learned that particular thing, I had to come from where I am and meet her this way. And when I discovered that this is a frequency, I can still bring that point across strongly, but at a frequency. So instead of being like, yo, Crystal, this is supposed to be the thing, or like, Smarty, this is supposed to be the thing, I'll be like, Smart, I just need to address something quickly. This is the thing that I'm not happy with, and address that. I literally came from what I was, same scenario, but just I had to bring my frequency down. So it's important that you need to understand where your wife's frequency, especially when it comes to communication, is, so that you can meet her that way. But that's something that I had to discover, is that you can say the right thing or do the right thing, but at the wrong frequency, you miss the boat, or you will never get your point across. This is also one of the important things that I had to learn, because obviously as the podcast go on, we will speak deeper into this, and I would like to have my father here one day. But the one thing that I had to learn is that leadership was not something that was taught unto me. It wasn't something that I instantaneously had, but I had to learn it along the way. And when it comes to like being a youth leader and being a leader in your house is completely different. So what I had to learn is that I did not have all the answers. I didn't have the ways to lead. I wasn't married before, so I didn't know how to easy just to be a husband, to be a leader, to be the priest of your house. However, what I've learned in this time is to not only make excuses of I didn't have forefathers or mentors or stuff like that, but you have to learn while you are learning. So which means that even though you don't have that leadership skills, but lead as a husband, as the head of the house, while you're still learning to become a better husband, to become a better priest. Because a lot of females struggle with this thing, is that they have husbands that don't have the ability to lead, and they use excuses. And I want to say unto us as men, we have to lead irrespective. You know and don't know how, find ways. Get yourself a mentor, get yourself guidance, but lead in the process while you're learning. So that's something that I think was super helpful to me, is that, and even now, there's a lot of stuff that I'm still learning, but I'm still leading. I remain the leader. I'm still the head of the house. And even with baby on the way, I'm going to learn more, but I will still lead. She will know that her father is the leader in this house. And so that is unto another young man, that if you're thinking of getting married, or also like you are married or newlywed, you have to have this thing of what you have to lead. And lastly, I think this is something that I've learned from a friend of mine, a rapper, goes by the name of DOEP, and I wasn't married yet, but he told me, he said, John, he's an Afrikaans guy, so he said, daar's een ding wat ek vir jou kan sê, wanneer jy nou gaan trou. And I think this thing stick with me, probably will stick with me through the rest of my marriage, or also the rest of my life, was that I said, Dimo, dis hier voel dinge as 'n doen ding. And I thought to myself, yo, and he explained that you're not always going to feel like doing the dishes, but you're going to have to do the dishes. And in this case, you're not always going to feel like leading, but you're going to have to lead. And so for me, that is something that I really, in the house, wherever I am, whenever I tend to adapt this particular thing, like it's your full day, it's a doen ding, like you have to do it. There's going to be times where you don't feel like doing things, but you just have to, especially as the leader, as the male of the house, as the priest of the house, you're going to have to do. There was a doen ding. It's a Doen Ding. Irrespective of how like it's a Doen Ding while you are still learning, lead of Doen. So there's something that, or the 5 things that I've learned is, number 1, I became super protective. Number 2 is that you're not fighting your partners, you guys fighting the particular issue. Number 3 is that you need to use the words at the right frequency. And number 3 is that lead while you're still learning. Don't make excuses. And number 4 is a Doen Ding. So stop it out at sea. DOEP. So yeah, that's the 5 things that I've learned. And then we're gonna head over to things that I think a man should know while in a relationship. So if you are a boyfriend right now, or if you are a fiance, I think this is the 5 things that you are going to learn. There's obviously a lot more, but this is just things that stood out for me. The first one is that you are the lid. I think I read this book by John C. Maxwell, and it's called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. It's really an amazing book. And I think his first chapter, he speaks about the 21 laws. He wrote it before, but he then rewrote this book with new laws. But the first law that he wrote about leadership was the law of the lid. And I just want to read a chapter out of this, where he says that the lower an individual's ability to lead, the lower the lid on his potential is. And then he said, the higher the individual's ability to lead, the higher the lid on his potential. To give you an example, if your leadership rate is an 8, then your effectiveness will never be greater than 7. And if your leadership is only 4, then effectiveness will never be higher than 3. And I think that is something John Maxwell, an amazing writer when it comes to leadership. But I think the first thing that you have to learn as a male is that, and especially on being the head of the house, I'm always very strict on when it comes to, in a marriage or in a relationship, we need to know the order. We need to have the order of God, like in your house or in your own life capacity. But this is something that I take from there, is that as a male, is that if you want to raise your or lead your wife to great expectations, or your family to higher heights, that you as a male have to equip yourself. And like the book said, is that if you're on a level 8, your household will automatically will never reach higher than the level of 8. And I think because, and we can see it in society, that's normally in this society where females have strong personalities and looking like they are taking lead, you will quickly see a marriage like that frequencies out. I don't care how it looks, but in anyone you can automatically see that frequency is completely out when it comes to the way the house or marriage is supposed to be led. So for you to have a woman of maybe saying a rating of 8 or 9, you'll never get a 10. And I'm not meaning in any particular way, whether it is like physicality, but I'm talking about especially even spiritually. For you to have a lady, if you want to raise the bar, you personally have to raise your bar. Like, if your lady is smart, you need to get smart. You don't like, just she's studying, you also got to study. You want her to go get her learners, and you need to have your learners and your license. If you want her to be healthy or consistent in where it is, lead her to that. And I know my wife, obviously now with baby loading, I always wanted her to join me at gym and stuff like that. But one thing that I show her, that I remain constant. I remain constant, irrespective of what. I remain constant. Somewhere along the line, she will be like, man, I need to. And she brought that conversation already of like, I want to go to the gym, but I had to learn to lead. So then raise the bar for them. And remember, the only way for your family to also raise the bar is for you to raise your standards. And that is spiritually, that's financially, that's emotionally, That is mentally. So you have to literally raise your bar for your family also to raise the bar. So that's one thing. This is one thing that I personally think it's very important, and that is you need to submit under God. As a man, I've seen a lot of relationships goes sour because this man is not submissive. And I'm not talking about church, going to church or doing the works of church or you every Sunday at church or every Monday at church. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about actually submitting under God, for Him to actually direct you, for Him to be your father. Because what happens is that once a man don't have that, he then begin to think that he's the God of the house and everything that he says is right. Where when you submit under God, and while you are doing your errors and things like that, God can actually tell you, this is actually wrong, or this is not right, you're not doing this right. You have to submit. I firmly believe under that. You have to submit under God, for Him to help you guide your family. And like the same thing that I said, like leading while you're learning. While you're learning, God can help you learn. And so if there's nothing else, because somebody will be like, yeah, but my father didn't teach me that. God is a father, He can teach you. So yeah, number 2 is to submit under God. The other thing that I think a man should know in a relationship, in an engagement, or on his way to getting married, is to actually study your wife. And this is what I said early on. When I had previous relationships, I just thought that all women are the same. But when you have your own partner, you'll see there's a lot of things that are different compared to other females out there. For example, this is one of the important things that I think is that they are love languages that sometimes other women don't have. I know there's a great friend of mine. She is no longer living in South Africa, but there was a friend of mine, Nina, and she told me about this particular thing where guys used to buy her things and they thought her love languages was gifts. However, her love language was just time spent, act of service. And they would buy expensive gifts, but that would not move her. And that's why, through that I've learned that you have to learn what your woman's love language is. You have to actually study your wife, like what, when she's off, when she is emotionally down or just mentally drained. You have to study what makes her smile. I know one of the things that makes my wife extremely happy is for me to compliment her when she's cooking or when I'm eating, or she loves me enjoying her food. So that is something that I would always make sure that I actually compliment her, not just like, oh, the food is nice. No. Actually tell her that this food is nice, and tell her actually what was nice about it. Because telling somebody or telling your wife that the food was nice can be just, monotonous. It can be like so. But if you actually say, I like the way you cooked the meat, like it's much more softer than 3 weeks ago, which means you are actually taking note of this particular thing. So for me, something that's very important is to study your wife. And also as a male, I think we struggle with this thing because and women, I will say, teach your husband or teach your boyfriend or teach your fiance to ask, what is your love language? And I would bet some of them don't know it. Because it's important for you to, once you know your wife's love language, you know where to meet her. That's going to be super helpful in your relationships, to know where to meet her. Like, if she's a gift person, not all women are love languages gift. Some of them are just time spent. Some of them are physical touch. Some of them are word of affirmation. Some of them are just like act of service. So once you know your wife's love language, you will then know where to meet her. So that is something that I feel it's important to study your wife. Study your wife, guys. Study your wife. And then third one is that you are the head. Lead. I think women will not say these things, but I think nothing frustrates them more than a man that cannot lead them. Women need to be led. I don't care how strong the personality is, women need to be led. My wife is inside there, and there's one thing that I'm learning along the way is to lead her. Irrespective of if I know how to do it or what, I'm the leader. And the Bible says that woman will now become your helper. So this is for our males out there. Like, if you don't lead your wife, you don't do anything, you are robbing your wife from becoming a helper. And I know that I have 4 sisters. My mom, I have a lot of female cousins, and we all, I have these conversations I have a lot of friends, and I know you can see it in their eyes. Nothing frustrates women more than a man or their partner that cannot lead. So men, lead your wife. Even in your relationship, learn to lead. For example, knowing they sometimes they do know what they want to eat, but they're just testing you. Don't be like, no man, anything is fine. No, tell them tonight we're going to go to McDonald's because last week you actually lead. Be assertive of like what you want, know what you want, and actually lead them. Like, Saturday morning we're going to do this. My wife knows that because it's Valentine's Day, Saturday we're going on a date, and I told her 12 o'clock we're going on a date. I want you to wake up early, and this is what it is. So this is how you learn or teach them how to lead. You have to lead your wife, guys. The other thing is this, what I've also noticed that, and I think this is the last one, is that small things matter. And not in everything, but in this case, I'm talking about small things matter. It's the little things. My wife knows that one of the stuff that I love doing is creating moments. And that is whether I'm driving on the car, parking the car one side, and just dancing, joel, and make her happy and make her laugh. Or even when I come home, or in the middle of the night, or early morning, do the small things. One of the things that I don't make a habit of it, but one of the things that I like to do is that leaving gifts random places, whether it is maybe not making up the bed and leaving the bed like that, but under the stuff I will leave a gift with a little note just saying thank you for being the most amazing wife, or thank you for growing our baby, or thank you for this. And I've learned that it's the little things. Like, I know my wife like a cert. There's a few things that my wife likes, certain sweets that they like, and I'll make sure that I get that exact sweet, that exact flavor, steady stampy, that exact sucker that she like, because it's the little things that actually matters, guys. It's not really all the big things that we want. Is like, I want to have this great house, or this great car you're buying. I want to buy my wife this car and that, but you never bought your wife flowers. So yeah, that is 5 things that I've learned in my marriage, and 5 things that I think can help any guy. And there's much more. There is so much more. So guys, that is this week's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know about what are the things that you maybe learned in your marriage, or one of the things that you think is important in a relationship. I hope you guys have an amazing Valentine's Day, an amazing love, month of love. So this week we have discussed all the things that I've learned, all the things, or 5 things that I've learned, and 5 things that I think is important. Next week I'd love to talk about 5 things that I think women should know. Who knows, maybe I can get my wife to sit next to me. But yeah, guys, I hope you guys have a great day further. You keep well. I'm John Davids, and I'm out. Safe.